Hello and welcome back. We were working with password hashing in our last video. Let's continue on. I'm going to get rid of these version and cost and all of this, okay? Okay. We saw these two comparisons and we tested that they were working, so I'm going to get rid of those as well. So now I'm left with this. I'm creating a password using bcrypt's create method right here, which is giving me a string. It's not this string, so I'm going to get rid of this as well, because every time it's a new one. And then if I run this in its current form, ruby main.rb, there is the string that was created. Okay, great, so that's working. Now, let's grab this string. Let's see, right here. Okay, Command C. I'm going to grab that and then paste it here. Command V. Okay. Let's see. So my password equals bcrypt : password dot new this time with this string. And then let me compare this my password to the string my password, which was used to create it. Let's see if that works. Okay, I'm going to put a puts here and then code this out. Okay, let's run it. Looks like my session restarted. Check it out. It said true. Okay, so there is the authentication methodology. I basically took this string, which was created from taking my password, turning it into a hashed version of my password using salt, but then I was able to compare it to the my password string by using that string to compare it to. Okay, now if I do this line, my password, several times, let's see what happens just to see this. I'm going to code this out. Okay, I have my password. Okay, my password 1 equals, and then take this thing, Command C. See, I'm taking the same my password string, but choosing a different password to do this. And then I'll take this whole Command C, and then there you go, 3 times the same string. And then let's print them out. My password. Okay, so let's see what this does. I'm going to clear this up so the output is on top. Check out the 3 strings. The hashed version, all 3 of them are different. See this, the ending? They're all different, even though I'm using the same string. That's why this authentication system works, because every time when you take that string and run this bcrypt password create, because of the addition of the salt, it doesn't come up with the same string. Okay, so you can't do something like this. You can't compare puts my password equals my password 1. This should be false. There you go, it's false. And the only way to verify that this string, this hash string, is the actual password is you can use that string and you would have to know that actual string, my password, in order to get a true value. You can't compare it to a different hashed version of that same string. You would have to know that actual string. So instead of this, I simply compared my password and then ran this. Let me clear this up. This should give me true. There you go. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So using this methodology, what can we do? This is the part that's creating the hashed version of our password. So what we can do is we can create a method that simply uses this to come up with a hash version of passwords that users enter. All right, let's say we wanted to save a user's password in this format. So I can do that. Let me create a new file. Actually, there's add file. I'll call this crud.rb. Okay. Now I will need all of this because I need the bcrypt gem installed and require it. So Command C, Command V. Okay. All right. And then I can simply say define create hash digest, and I'll send in a password to this method. And over here, the code will simply be the code we used over here, bcrypt password create. Over here, bcrypt password create, and within parentheses, here I'm going to pass in password. So all I need to do is say password over here. So now to use this, all I need to do is say new password equals create hash digest, and then let's say password 1. Then puts new password. Let's see, this one is ruby crud.rb. There you go. My methodology is working. So now let's test it. New password equals password 1. This should work out to be true. If I run this again, ruby crud.rb. There you go, true. And then use a different one. False. Perfect. Okay, so this methodology is working. My method is working. So now how do we create a verification method? For example, if the password was entered in at a different time, what was the methodology we were using to verify? If you remember, we were using this one right here, password.new. So let's try that. Over here, we're going to go back here and say define verify hash digest. This takes in a password. And all this will do is whatever we were doing here with this part. So the idea is that the user is going to enter in a password, and then I'm going to call this method to verify if that password is correct. Actually, this is password. Okay, and then there you go, password. Okay, so there you go. There's my create hash digest and verify hash digest. So let's test it out. And how are we going to do that? Let's get rid of this code. I'm going to grab some of the users that we created before. So I'll go back here. And if you remember, we had some students that we were working on. Yeah, let's see. Oh, there you go. Here are my users from our Authenticator project from before. I'm going to copy this. Now you can grab this from the text lecture following this video lecture, or you can go back to your version of this and copy this. I'm gonna go back over here and then enter in my users there. Okay, well, that kind of looks a little ugly. I'm going to... Okay, so there are my users. How would we use one of our methods to take these users and create secure passwords for them? If you remember, we can run through each user, grab their password, or each record in our users array, grab their password, and run this create hash digest method on them. So let's do that. We're going to call this method define create secure users, and this takes in a list of users, and we'll say list of users, which is the list that's being passed in, dot each do. Let's start a do block, and we'll call each record user record. You can obviously call this anything you want. Okay, and I'll put the end in there. Now, what do we want to do with each user record from this array? So the first time username will be Mashur, password is password. So what if I wanted to grab this password? What would I have to do? I have to say something like this, user record, and then password, right? Let's test this out. Let's puts out the password. So I'm expecting to see all of these. For now, I'm simply going to say create secure users and pass in my users array. Now remember, this isn't going to do anything in terms of creating hash digest. I simply want to see that I can access the password values by giving in the password key right here. Okay, so let's run this. Ruby crud.rb. There you go. I'm able to access them, password 12345. So now the task simply becomes taking this and instead of printing it out, converting this one to a hash digest by calling my create hash digest method. So what I'll do here is I'll say user record password equals create hash digest of this user record password. So I'm going to pass in this value, which remember for the first instance will be password 1, second instance password 2, and so on, to my method right here, which takes in that password and simply creates a hashed version of it. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this so you can see more clearly. And then I want to return this list of users, because all this is doing is it's taking list of users and converting all of the passwords to a hashed version of it. And once it's done, I want to return list of users. Okay. Now if I run create secure users with the users array, I'm going to get back a list of users. So I can print out this list or my array, this new array. So let's run this and see what happens. Check it out. Okay, if I expand this, whoops, the view is not that great on this thing. Let's see. Okay, so this is an issue with REPL, I guess. Let me run this again and see if I can show a little bit of a better view. If I run this again. There you go, much better. You see now I have username and then hash version of password. So I gave it a simple array like this, and it returned an array like this with the hash digest. So you see the power of this thing and how it can be used in web applications. Now the next part of this is that notice how I'm coming up with these nice little methods that are independent of any users, right? I can pass this in from wherever. I can pass this in, this users array, from a file or from the web, from wherever, from a JSON file, from a CSV file, or from a database, whatever. But you see, I have these three methods now: create hash digest, verify hash digest, create secure users. Notice how it's forming a toolkit of some kind for working with hashed passwords associated with users. So this is how a module in Ruby can be used, okay? If I have certain methods grouped together like this, let's say 5 or 6 methods, I can simply call it a module, name it something like CRUD, which I'm doing here, and then I can use that as a toolkit for whatever program I'll be working with. So if you're working with a user class, which we had worked with before in our students class, imagine if you had access to a module like that. And that's how this works. You basically can include a module into a class by doing what's called a mix-in, okay? You can mix in a module into a class and then use the methods in that module side that class. So it becomes the tools of that class. So remember how we kept saying in object-oriented programming, you can think of classes as things. Think of modules as toolkits, okay? Think of modules as toolkits, and it gives you different tools for the things to use, all right? The things being our class. And we haven't actually created or converted this to a module yet. I want to write one more method, which is authenticate user, and then we'll convert it to a module. So I'll see you in the next video.